Hi, everyone. Welcome to Boomer Has It. This is the podcast where you can hear a wealth of wisdom and information and experience from two boomers, and where we'll explore important society topics, cultural topics, and see what we bring to the conversation and what we're missing. I'm Jim Jalamas here in Brooklyn, and I have with me.
I'm JB Miller in London. Welcome to another episode. We're going to try something a bit more political than we've done in the past few weeks, and that is about what's going on in Washington, which is a lot. We've tried to keep away from the news because it just changes by the minute, and as soon as something goes out, it's old news. But we both thought this would be a sort of an interesting subject, and it's about the midterms and political malpractice. No, you had a much better term for it, Jim. What did you call
I
it?
think I'm calling it MAGA midterm malpractice.
Yeah, that's a better right. Because I was thinking the GOP may very well not lose the midterms, but they certainly look like they're trying to, and that seems surprising to me because it's not something they would want to do, but they are doing everything to try to screw things up. The latest, of course, being this war in Iran, which everyone seems to have just tripped over, and there has never been this hasn't been fully explained to the American people. And I think the first that Americans are not just Americans, everyone around the world, the first that we're kind of learning about it are higher prices at the petrol pump, as we call them here, the gas pump in America, higher prices for um, groceries, uh, air travel um, messed up all across the Mideast, which of course affects the rest of the world, shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Everything is being affected by it very quickly, and things are happening very quickly. But just from a political point of view, it doesn't make any sense. And Jim, why do you think this is going on? And is it just because everyone on the Republican side are so afraid of incurring Trump's wrath that they don't dare criticize what he's doing?
Well, we have a silent Congress. We've had it for a long time, so that's nothing new. And no, and there's a certain percentage of the electorate, let's call it the Trump loyalists, where nothing really matters. Epstein files, price of gas, racism, it's all explained away. There's an explanation for it. But right now, this is hitting the consumer. And let's go back not long ago where we had a president who was the steward of our economy. His name was Joe Biden. We had the S&P 500 rise 58% over 4 years. Pretty strong stock market, leavened by bad inflation. 20% inflation brought down the stock market to like a 30% gain. That's not so good. And inflation is really what lost the Democrats the election. You could say it's woke, you can say it's a female candidate, but really it's hitting the pocketbook of the voter who will ask for something different. And right now, the pocketbook of the voter has got a big hole in it. Right now, it's happening now at the gas pump. 20% hike in gas prices. Diesel prices are even higher, but that's a whole other conversation.
Well, there's something we've learned here in the UK, and it's the same in the States, but it's loud and clear here politically, and that is it's much easier to be in the opposition than it is to be in the governing seat. So when Labour was out of power and the Tories were tripping over themselves and doing everything wrong, and everyone was mad at them, they got voted out of power more because everyone was sick of the Conservatives, not because they particularly liked Labour. So Labour came in with a huge majority, but it was a very what's the word? It wasn't a deep majority in the sense that there wasn't a lot of public support for it. It was a vote against the Conservatives, and I think that's what Trump had the advantage of being in the opposition, and he could carp all he wanted. He claimed he was going to end the Ukraine war within 24 hours. That was over 14 months ago. It's very easy to make these claims, and it's hard to refute them. But now they are in the driver's seat. They can't go on blaming Biden's economy or anything really from Biden's administration because it's over a year into his administration. And I don't think people are buying that argument. You're not even hearing it as much anymore, right? I don't think you've heard Trump. You certainly can't blame his own Iran war on Biden. Biden didn't choose to go into Iran. Um, so he's on his own on this one, but he's not up for re-election in 6 months. It's his party, and they are still pretty much in lockstep with just about everything that he's doing. Um, I don't
They,
understand that. To be honest, I don't
it's
understand.
like, let's say something right now. We're not making a prediction. We're talking about tactics. And if you're preparing for the midterms, this is probably the worst way to go about it, right? And again, we're talking about secular voters here, not the MAGA faithful. And right now, the consumer is hit pretty hard between inflation, recurring inflation, persistent inflation, very bad job numbers last month, and surprisingly, the Bureau of Labor Statistics leader has not been sacked, unlike the last time. But two other really important segments to keep your eye on, most lately, is women voters. I think the Epstein files are absolutely irrelevant to the MAGA faithful. It's meaningless to them. You could have Trump, in a romance with a camel or something, and they'll say it was a doctored photograph and fake
Yes,
news.
right.
But there are women out there who are concerned, especially with the botched release of the files, and I'm speaking about redacted names of these prestigious, high salary, high educated incels who
Jim, do
need
you
to.
really do you really think that the Epstein files are going to make a huge difference in the midterm elections?
Well, I haven't gotten my point yet. And the point is that they redacted the names of the men who subscribed to the Epstein corruption and immorality, but they released the names of the victims. I mean, and we can go on and on about Jane Bondy's shame. She was elected uh, attorney general because of her record defending women. Women have been left out in the cold. So we talked about the gas pump and consumers. Now we're talking about women being left out in the cold this time around. I think that's not a good look for the GOP going into a critical election time. Do you agree?
Yes, I do, but I'm not convinced. And as you said, we're not making any predictions. I don't know who's going to win the midterm elections, but we're talking about the political landscape as it looks now, and in the news cycle, there's so much going on. I mean, to me, Trump is in, I shouldn't say Trump because he's not up for reelection, but the I think the GOP is potentially in far more jeopardy over the Iran war than they are over the Epstein files. That's not to say that the Epstein files aren't going to make you know some difference, but I don't think they're going to make much difference. But maybe I don't know. They just you know there's
It's
so
not the
much.
files. It's not the files themselves. It's just how, it's the bad taste it leaves for women voters, I think.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But I mean, there's so much. There's a there's a headline in today's Washington Post to put in a little plug for the Washington Post, and the headline is White House tells House GOP to avoid mass deportation talk ahead of midterms. Well, that's really interesting to me that they are afraid of any references to mass deportation because that's playing so badly, obviously, with mostly swing voters, that there's been, the message has been sent out. Be careful how you even phrase this, how you contextualize this, immigration issue, which used to be their issue. Oh my God, they had that issue over Democrats by I don't know how many points. Now they have to be careful how they even refer to it. So I think there's so many headwinds I mean, and they've made that win. They've made their own wins. But do you remember about 6 months ago, James Carville got in trouble for advising Democrats to lay low and just let the Republicans get into their own trouble. And they got
he called it play possum.
play possum.
Lay down and play possum.
Well remembered. And he got a lot of stick for that pushback, saying, "Oh no, the Democrats have been much more aggressive than that." Well, he may be proven right in the long term. There's not much Democrats can do except muddy the Republicans' message, which is getting muddied by themselves. Do you ascribe to that?
Yeah, and again, I want to keep this conversation as neutral as possible, and just say, these are unprecedented times. We don't know what to expect. We didn't see Mamdani coming out of nowhere, and here he is, and he's chummy at the White House. No, the rules don't stand. So
Well,
what we're talking about are sort of textbook approaches to winning an election.
Yeah.
And so given all those, we have to say, I think it's fair to say that they're creating headwinds, as you point out themselves. The other demographic we have not named yet. In February, the White House released a video, a Lion King video, casting Donald Trump as king of beasts and the Obamas as offensively as apes. Now, does that lose another demographic? You were the one when I was in a fetal position on the floor, wondering what happened to my country. You were the one who said, "Take heart, Jim. This is not a good electoral practice."
They're not doing themselves any favors. Why? I mean, yes, it was blatantly racist. Yes, of course. But what are they doing? I mean, it doesn't make any sense what they're doing. But this is the era of saying the quiet part out loud, right? The silent, the racism is out there. And that used to be really a sensitive issue with Republicans, because they used to send remember, what was it that Reagan announced his candidacy in a town in Mississippi where civil rights workers were murdered? Do you remember that? It was something. It was a symbolic gesture saying, we're on your side, white racist Southern. We've got your back, racists. And now that was what was it called? It's like a dog. That was the dog whistle era. Well, we're not in the dog whistle era. We're in the whistle era, where humans can hear those whistles. And that racist post was so ludicrous that I didn't know what they thought they were doing, except that they were tripping over their own racism. I mean, how else can you explain that? It's not a political strategy. And I mean, racism isn't a very good political strategy if you're trying to. He built on his vote from people of color from the last election. So maybe Trump somehow believes that he's got all this, black support, which he just doesn't have, or he had Hispanic support, Latino support that has evaporated, especially in Texas. They're afraid of not gaining the seats they're hoping to get. The Republicans are hoping, they actually gerrymandered,
Redistricting,
redistricted a lot of Texas to try to gain seats, and they may not gain as many seats as they think because of the Latino vote. But all of this should have been obvious. And I guess it's just hubris. I mean, that's a very common thing, hubris. Trump didn't win by a popular landslide. He swept all the swing states, but he didn't win. I think it was a 1.5% popular vote margin, but he has been going around saying he won by a landslide, and for all I know, he believes it. in which case he thinks he's got more political cushion than he has. Do you think that might be what's going on? I don't know what's going. I don't understand what's going on.
Again, these are just unprecedented times, and there are people who will listen and say, "He said landslide. It was a landslide. He's not a racist. It's not racism. Therefore, he's not a racist." That will happen. Again, let's keep this conversation. Let's keep our eye on the ball, right? And we're not talking about the MAGA faithful. We're not talking about redistricting. That's a whole other factor that can come
We
into
should be talking
play.
about swing voters. Are the really the ones?
Oh
Those are the
yeah.
voting issue.
Yeah, I think the thing is it's to concentrate on voter segments. The other thing we won't talk about, I don't think, unless you feel pressed, is potential interference in the election coming up, and we've seen signals about that. But really, I think the thing to consider is right. So we've covered race, we've covered consumers, we've covered women and swing voters, right? That's a big Venn diagram. Swing voters are a lot of different
Yes,
constituencies. Different
yes.
kinds of people are swing voters. And it's they're, I would say they're teetering right now. I mean, what are Trump's numbers right now?
Okay, I'm more familiar, I'm more au courant with the reaction to the Iran war, which is between 51 and 59% against. Um, I thought,
That's
I
closer
thought,
than I thought.
really, um, it was not for the beginning of a war. The Washington Post again did a very helpful. I'm really plugging the Washington Post. They did a
No,
good
you
article.
and your Washington Post.
Me and my WAPO. They did a great article with a graph comparing popular support of all of these military incursions going back about 30 years, with Afghanistan up at like 90% and Iraq at like 84%. And then it
I
went
saw
down,
that.
right?
They
So that
they
was
even
interesting.
they even included Panama
Yeah, they included.
Grenada.
Yeah, and I think the Iran war is below all of them. And if they're not going to go, it's not going to go up. The numbers can only go down, I would think, as the war gets longer. So those are actually terrible numbers. And I thought the last I knew about Trump's popularity was hovering between 36 and 41%, very low, historic lows for him. So he's not popular. Um, but I don't think these things get through to him particularly. I don't think, and they're just he's got such a pliant, party that are afraid of. I guess what they're afraid of is being primaried, and maybe that's a valid fear for Republicans. They've already knocked off that. So Crenshaw got knocked off. Is that his name? With the patch in his eye.
From Texas.
From
It,
Texas, he lost his
mm,
primary to a
wow.
further right MAGA candidate. So yes, I can. I guess it is a valid fear, and we've seen for the last year or so, the boldest Republicans are those who have already announced their retirement. They're the ones who feel free to criticize Trump and what he's doing. Um,
I have to confess, I looked at WAPO this morning. I did not cancel my subscription yet.
hey,
Uh,
well done. Keep with it.
oh,
You
actually,
still keep an
come to think,
editorial thing.
I looked closely at the post, but actually, the headline I saw was that they were making some headway in filling Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat, and that candidate was getting some traction.
Was that a
Which
MAGA candidate? You mean?
Yeah, MAGA
That's
candidate.
just, yeah.
So that's that
It's not much of a replacement.
I think if there's a candidate in Georgia making headway in that seat, it sort of defies our theory that this is that the executive branch's behavior demonstrates electoral malpractice.
Well, but those are by definition aren't those safe Republican seats. Those are not swing districts, particularly. As I was saying, Marjorie Taylor Greene was the ultimate MAGA candidate. So you're just replacing. Yes, she had some kind of conversion and then retired, but that's not like any lost seat to Democrats. That was always going to be a hard red seat, right? That's not a swing district, particularly.
No, good point. And right, we're talking about swing voters. That's another
You know,
demographic. Very,
Maine
very
is going to
important
be,
here.
the state of Maine has got this. You know, Democrats have been trying to get rid of Sue Collins for years, and their hopes are always dashed at the last minute. And I think Maine has a lot of libertarians, so it's not a particularly a blue state. Um, it's a swing state. So I think we'll see how she does in November. She's probably fears for holding on to her seat. But hopes have been dashed before, and I'm not making any predictions about that seat either. Well, I think what we're talking about is just trying to figure out what the Republican strategy is, because, and I don't want to be part of a a, a bubble podcast where we're talking to people who already agree with us, or we agree with, or whatever. I don't like those particular reports. I'm interested in the strategy and what they think they're doing. I mean, we've been reading about how the White House has been struggling to deal with increasing gas prices, and that which means they weren't planning for this. They weren't. I mean, I guess they figured Venezuela seemed to have gone well, although I would like to have a real follow-up in Venezuela, because I don't really know what's going on in that country. And then the what is 12-day war, that is, he calls it, the Israeli US attack on Iran that was supposed to have wiped out their potential nuclear arsenal. When was that? In August, I think, where we were told it was all wiped out, and so there would be no need to go in after that. But there evidently is a need. But there weren't any long-term higher gas prices after that, and I've heard that referenced in articles about what they were thinking before they went in this excursion. That'll be this. Sorry, excursion. That's the word. Is that the word that Trump used the other day? It's an
Excursion, incursion.
excursion.
He meant to say
Incursion.
incursion.
It's an
Maybe he
excursion.
wanted to take an excursion to the beach that
Yeah,
day,
it's
or
like a
to go
it's like a
sightseeing.
it's like a nice cruise in Iran. So they didn't prepare for any of the sticker shock that more and more people are experiencing.
I
That
mean, you
seems
could argue that they're, with Venezuela, they're playing a geopolitical long game because Venezuela has oil. But, practically speaking, you can't take a vertically integrated um, uh, petroleum infrastructure and just turn it around to, just turn the pipes to the United States in times of trouble or times of war. You just can't do that. But I mean, so the question is there a strategy, or is it just taking it day by day? I no,
there's no
I mean, at the expense of, again, sounding too partisan. You and I both heard a video footage of Trump's first press conference about the war. He spent about a minute talking about the war, and then he
he was
said,
he was asked if he was going to get bored. He asked if he was
distracted.
distracted, but I think the word was actually
Was
bored.
it bored?
He was bored, and he says, "I don't get bored by war." And then the next minute, he was talking about the drapes, these wonderful gold curtains that he had just hung up at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, it was
Well, the fact is, right, he talked about the war for about a minute, and then the balance of the time, I think he was on air like 10 minutes. It was all about drapes, the color
drapes,
gold, the
gold
best
drapes.
ballroom in the world.
Yeah, he was already bored.
He was
He was,
already bored. And so,
yeah,
you're
but
very
he's no
kind. You're very kind.
self-awareness.
You're kind calling him bored. I think he's demented.
All right, demented. Yes, I mean, that's fair enough. Um, yes,
Oh, you said it again. Fair enough. You said it. Fair
fair
enough.
enough. I've been
Fair
accused of
enough.
saying fair. I think that's fair enough. I say that too much.
Do you think
Uh,
that Reagan going to a southern state where there was still Jim Crow, it would be the equivalent of someone like, um, let's say Bob Evans, someone from the Bob Evans family and make sausage, that they had a meeting with PETA and said, "Here we are. We're on your side, vegans, and we're gonna have an administration that is vegan friendly." Do you think that's the equivalent?
well, yeah, I guess so. who's the whistle for there? I don't quite understand it quite well. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just saying bald-faced, lies, really, I suppose. Um, yeah, it's, you know,
Clunky performance.
yes,
Uh,
yes, it's going to make it
um, I don't
worse.
know what are the key. So let's go back to swing states, right? Because that captures all these demographics.
Yeah,
Wisconsin, state of Wisconsin, state of Minnesota, uh, Arizona is a potential swing state. Maine, of course, Graham Plattner, all eyes on the oyster fisherman with
yeah. I mean, I
the
think some of the
questionable tattoos.
yes, the Texas the districts in Texas. I think Texas is more likely to have some districts turn Democratic than what's his name win the Senate. Tallarico. I don't think he's going to certainly against John Cornyn. I don't think he's going to dislodge that seat. But I think those Texas seats that's going to be interesting. Seeing Texas turn a little bluer. It's not going to happen in Florida, the crazy state. But yes, I guess there are a lot of, and the Republicans are defending a lot more seats than the Democrats are, and they have a lot more retirements than the Democrats have. So, the landscape is much more challenging for them at, in the best of circumstances.
Mm, mm, mm. So, I mean, does that presage anything? Do Republican retirements presage even more radical Republicans taking those seats, or is it up for grabs?
No, I think no, it's only up for grabs if it's an acknowledged swing state. I think that you are going to see more conservative and maybe MAGA candidates take over those offices, those positions that of some of those retirements. Yeah, I think that's probably true. Certainly,
And and
that's true.
and I'm sad because I started this podcast talking about our demographic, baby boomers, and how maybe we can bring some experience to this conversation. But I'm at a loss. I don't see anything analogous during past presidential administrations where we've seen such haphazard results of or unprecedented outcomes in electoral politics. I
But do
just
you
can't
think that
even.
just by virtue of having more time on their hands in the short term, boomers are following the news more closely than other generations who are just too too busy? There was a quote again in the Washington Post. I'm giving them another
Oh
plug.
my God!
There is they were keeping track of various voters on certain issues, and there was one woman, I think in her 20s, who was saying about the Iran war. Well, from what I understand, we were about to be attacked, and so I support this war as a defensive posture. And I'm thinking this is not a high information voter. This is someone who's not really following what's going on. And maybe do you think that boomers are following what's going on in a more granular
Actually,
level
I
just because they
saw
have more
that.
time
I
to do so?
saw that quote, and it was at the gas pump, and she said she was a
Yeah,
Trump voter.
that's
That
right.
if we were in imminent danger, as claimed by the Department of whatever you call it, um,
Yeah,
then it's justified. But she
yeah.
also added, if it's while she's pumping gas and spending $30 more to fill her tank, that if it wasn't a justified emergency, then there's a problem there. So that it was interesting that they captured that quote.
So she qualified that comment. That's interesting, but you know, I didn't quite believe her, to be honest, because the way if her immediate response was, well, it was an imminent threat. She sounds like a pretty hardcore MAGA voter, and that I don't. So Trump's going to be justifying this all the way down the line. I personally, I didn't see her changing her opinion on that. But you're right, she did qualify it. Maybe I should give her the benefit of the doubt.
Voters are fickle when it comes to their checkbooks and their budgeting. That's the
That's a
thing.
good point. That's a good point.
But to your point about whether boomers spend more time studying the news, I'm thinking about that graphic that you mentioned in the goddamn Washington Post,
Yeah.
mentioning Panama and Grenada, and I wonder if who
Who remembers
remember
for us?
who remembers or even knows what those places are.
Sonny, I remember the days of the Panama invasion. Oh,
Panama, isn't that a hat? Isn't
that's
that a
that.
canal? Oh, it's a country. Grenada.
Yeah,
Well, it comes from
it's a
Grenada.
kind of
Grenadine.
yeah, grenadine.
It's
You
in your
put in drink.
cocktail.
Yeah, right.
It's a very geopolitical.
Well, but that's true. That's true. These are ready reference points to us, and they're not ready reference points to what a majority of the population now. So and within that majority of people who don't have the reference points are people who are getting their news in a very different way, certainly than I am. I don't have a news feed through Facebook or some social media account. I go right to the source, and I read all these sites directly online, and I spend much more time than I probably should following the news. I find it so interesting. There's so much going on, and if you miss it, yeah, I guess it is like a soap opera. If you miss a day, you think, oh my God, Renata's pregnant? When did that happen? Where were you on Tuesday? Josephine got blown up with an exploding donkey. When did that happen? Well, yep. Well, that happened last Thursday.
It was a floating
yeah,
donkey.
exploding donkey. See, it's so unpredictable.
How do they outfit the donkey with buoys or something to make it float, or is it tread water? Is it like those porpoises that they were going to train to detonate bombs or something?
That turned out to be a real story. I think that was a real thing.
Why a donkey, though? I mean,
or was that the film The Day of the Dolphin? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Is that what based on? That was a Mike Nichols film, one of the many Mike Nichols misfires.
I think you're confusing donkeys with maybe manatees. Wrong aquatic mammal.
Yeah, donkeys aren't even aquatic. Yeah, no, they were dolphins. Yeah, dolphins. The Day of the Donkey. Day of the Dolphin.
Day of the Donkey.
Yeah, that was going to be the sequel, Day of the Dolphin, Day of the Donkey, but the film is such a flop they decided not to make it.
I think the scene is the scene where the attack's about to happen. They're at the coast, and you hear this hee haw, and everyone takes cover because the donkeys are coming. They're attacking.
That'll be next.
Yeah, these are unprecedented times. I mean, the foreign incursions, right? So we remember Grenada in the 80s, Panama in the 90s. Here's another one, curveball. Do we remember formerly Yugoslavia, the bombing in Serbia and Kosovo? Also in that list.
That was a very democratic administration. Most of these are Republican incursions or excursions or whatever you want to call them. That was Clinton. That was under Clinton.
It was under Clinton, and the public quickly forgave it because it was the collapse of the Soviet Union, further collapse of the Soviet Union, and its
very evil
client and satellite countries that were falling apart.
Yeah,
and we fixed it with
we didn't get mired in that.
And we didn't get mired. It was in and out, and looks like we're facing a mire for sure.
Facing miredom, yes. Miredom in a mid-year, in a midterm year. It's just inexplicable to my mind. Inexplicable. I can't. Every now and then I wonder what not just America, but what the world would be like if Kamala Harris had been elected, and it looks so different. It looks
talk about alternative reality. Well, what would it have? Would we have inflation? Would we have Would we have foreign excursions?
We know what we wouldn't have. I mean, we know, we wouldn't have, innocent people, rounded up and children bundled into vans, and undocumented. There's so much we wouldn't have.
Yeah, I guess U.S. citizens wouldn't have been shot.
Yeah.
right in the
Wouldn't have
head
a gutted
multiple times.
federal government. We wouldn't have administration that was that was selling merch and making billions, not millions. The family made the Kamala Harris family wouldn't be making billions on crypto and
Merchandise and
merchandise and all
and
that
real
stuff.
estate deals. Yeah,
Real,
that's right.
all of this, and she will be accepting a free jet from the was it
It's an interesting
free?
alternative reality. I mean, let's say Harris won and Waltz was her vice president. Would we be seeing calamities? I mean, what would
No.
we would it would probably be um, a status quo with our government and our agencies. We'd
Yes, it
have
would have been
a
status quo. It would have been more business as usual. It would have been a federal government that was functioning. You wouldn't have so many. Um, you wouldn't have a measles, all the measles outbreaks. So we wouldn't have Robert Kennedy Jr. in charge of the immunization program. I mean, it would be you wouldn't have you'd have hundreds of thousands of people not dying because of the US aid cuts. I mean, it would be a different world, just a different world. You know, I
uh,
it not,
you
you
know, I think when you line things up, sometimes, you can look at dollars and cents, and you can look at economic trends. You can look at inflation.
you would have
But
tariffs.
when
You
you
would have
look
all
at
the tariffs.
when you look at lives lost, that's when things get serious to me. Whether they're
Serious,
foreign
very,
lives, overseas
very
people
serious.
depending on vaccines that we distribute through
Yeah,
USAID,
AIDS, people
or
with
whether it's our own citizens getting shot by people in our government.
yeah.
That's sort of the thing for me.
It was a life and death election, literally. But so was 2000 when Al Gore won the popular vote by 500,000. That's close, but he won it. And instead we got George W. Bush, who lied about weapons of mass destruction and launched this ridiculous campaign into Iraq and causing the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, I believe.
Well, that's an interesting contrast, though.
War never would have launched that war. I mean,
Well, I
maybe
know it's an
some
interesting
general.
contrast because, again, right, memories are short and we're old. And you could argue that the George W. Bush election was maybe the beginning of the end for the sane Republican Party. Then, with regards to Iraq, right, there was a pretext. There were weapons of mass destruction that never existed. However, the run up to the war, by contrast to this war, it took about a year.
Yeah, he
They were
sold it.
they
Sold
sold
it.
it. They beat the drums.
And he got allies on his
They got
side.
alliances. It was remember the term coalition of the willing.
Coalition of the willing. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
We don't. That's not happening right now. This is
No.
this is an foreign excursion that is it's supposed to be it was supposed to be over in a week,
Yeah.
and it won't be. And we're going it alone.
Yeah.
We don't have
Well,
European
I mean,
allies
after
here.
after the president insulting all of these European allies that now he's asking to help him in this incursion. It's really, and they are helping him. Germany's helping him. France has sent an aircraft carrier, I believe. They are helping. He doesn't deserve their help. And here in the UK, Starmer was initially the prime minister. Um, was initially criticized for not being as gung ho about this. Is from the right wing media and the opposition, some of the opposition parties. He was accused of being not supportive enough for the special relationship, quote unquote. And now, and in the days since then, he has been more helpful. But actually, he's gained political ground by wanting to stay out of it. And actually, people are coming around to his side. And some of the people who criticized him from the Reform Party and the Conservative Party are being asked, what exactly would you want him to do? Do you want the UK to get more involved in this? And that's a hot issue here. And that's probably a hot issue in France and Germany and Italy and all these other countries. Actually, it puts their leaders in a difficult position because these tariffs are have been a bit of a a stick to get people on, to get countries on side, and it does put leaders in a difficult position. You don't want to piss off the U.S., but I don't think any of these allies want to get involved in this, because history is instructive. Everyone knows, everyone in charge, everyone in these all these leaders are well aware what happened in Iraq.
Well, what about the Board of Peace? How are those alliances holding up during this crisis? And does Indonesia have an aircraft carrier? You're up on these things, aren't you?
Does Indonesia have an aircraft carrier? I
I
don't
think
think so. Maybe a very small one with like
maybe
import planes. I don't know.
with little planes on it. But
It
you think they're biplanes? Like, do you think it's loaded with Sopwith camels?
is a little salt with pups. That's even smaller than the salt with camel. A salt with
Oh,
pups.
maybe they have weaponized donkeys that can swim.
Maybe Snoopy is on his his doghouse, and remember Snoopy with his, he had a flying, what was it called, a flying cap and the scarf and the goggles.
That's
He
right.
was flying assault with pup.
He was riding a Sopwith camel,
There's
and
a boomer reference for you,
do-
boomers. Is that still in daily papers? Or are there any daily papers? Is Peanuts? Are they running repeats of Peanut comic strips? Do you
I
know?
haven't looked at a comic strip in a long time. So that's maybe a
That's a
follow-up
question.
for
Yes,
another
let
episode.
our listeners will let us know if peanuts are still in some newspapers. And there was a great political cartoonist called Mark Allen Stamety in the Village Voice, who later went on, I think, the Washington Post, Washington. Do you remember him from the
Of
90s?
course, naturally. Yep.
Yeah, he was brilliant. He was one of my national treasures. Go back to a historic
Uh,
episode.
I think maybe this is a natural transition to headquakes.
Oh,
Would
headquakes.
you agree? And let's
Yes.
remind everyone what a headquake is.
What
It's
is a
it
headquake, Jim?
it's an observation that we've made, something we've experienced that was a cross between a headache and an earthquake in our
Right.
spiritual selves.
Yes, that's right. So, Jim,
Um,
what's your headquake this week?
and my headquake's actually a follow-up to our Washington Post episode. New York Magazine wrote a piece about the former publisher and CEO of the Washington Post, who replaced Fred Ryan. He'd been sitting in the role for about a little over 2 years, and their claim is that he actually destroyed the newspaper. He was feckless. He was reckless. His background was the Wall Street Journal, and before that, a couple of Murdoch papers. And so naturally, I wanted to follow up on it, and I have this feeling about this belief that I love the New York Magazine, that it's
Hmm.
a little bit of
Is
like
that a boomer? It's not a boomer magazine, really, is it? What's the demographic for New York Magazine?
they're for a print publication, they're extremely successful. They
Yeah.
pedal in FOMO heavily, which works for me. I admit I just love
What,
it.
with like parties or what? Where's the FOMO in New York
Everything
Magazine?
goings on about town,
Oh, you're a man about
movies,
town.
theater, right? And I'm sometimes I miss things and I feel sad
Oh, I
about it.
see. All right,
They're
all right,
really on top of it,
all
and
right.
and it's an interesting contrast with the New Yorker, because they're both weekly magazines. They both
Weekly print
in one
magazine.
weekly print magazines. They both cover New York, and why
Yeah.
is one considered superior to the other? And we know which one we're talking about. You can't touch the New Yorker because of its fact checking, because of the prestige of its writers,
Yeah, it's
because
history.
there are many things about the New Yorker that is makes it godlike in the pantheon of print publications, and for
Yeah.
even non-print publications. Anyway, back to this New York Magazine. So I always ask myself, why do I love it so much? Why is it so good? And I just realized when getting through this article what the big difference was. To their shame, there was there was no interview with Will Lewis, who left the Washington Post. no comment from Bezos, no comment from the former publisher. It was probably a 3,000 word story, and there was not one name, not one source cited throughout the whole piece.
So
It's all
journalistic negligence.
back to malpractice. A former editor recalls one current Post staffer, one former business staffer remembers, another current staffer says, a former Post staffer says, a senior editor says. So what does that mean?
He didn't get
It,
any. He didn't get anyone to go on the record. Is that what you're saying? They are.
no,
They're all
nobody went on the
anonymous.
record for 3,000 words or whatever this was, and it's
But
what we say.
sorry,
It's not a good look. It's not a
let
good
me
look.
just ask.
But
Sorry, let me.
why isn't it a good look? It's
But sorry,
because
can I just ask a question?
yeah, ask away if you
Would
must.
it, you're saying a journalist should have gotten at least a few of these people to go on the record with their names? Is that what you're saying? Is that what your gripe is on this?
And yes, and the reason is because we have to trust the publication that all these quotes have all been verified and fact checked instead of seeing
Oh,
the actual name.
all right.
And you know, I don't know, 7 paragraphs in, it says former and current Post employees on both the editorial and business ends who spoke anonymously out of fear of retaliation or losing their severance. Okay, to quote you, fair enough.
Fair
But
enough.
for God's sakes, if you're going to do a major feature about who destroyed the Washington Post, give us someone on the record,
Would the New
please.
Yorker have gotten someone on the record? Do you think?
Well, so that's a good question. I don't think the New Yorker would have published it. I don't think a major daily or the New Yorker would have published this story without named sources.
Okay, all right.
And you know, the New Yorker is famous for its fact checking.
Yeah.
And I have an anecdote. Should I share the anecdote?
Yes, quickly, because we've got to wrap this up, I think. But yeah,
Sure.
let's hear your anecdote.
Fair.
Fair enough. Now
Don't say that again. I bet, a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, there was a profile about James Brown by a great reporter. And they talked about his early years when he used to play roadhouses and even some rural, you know,
venues.
thank you.
Welcome.
And someone was quoted as saying he could make the room so quiet you could hear a mouse peeling cotton.
Oh.
Now, how did that get past the fact checker? Well, it didn't, because someone eventually wrote to the magazine and said, this is a misquote. What we say in the South is, if it's a very quiet room, you could hear a mouse peeing on cotton.
Oh, that's better.
That's a lot better.
That's much more, yeah.
What a great metaphor. What a great metaphor. I use it all the time now when I go to church.
Yes, it's a church. All right. Well, my head quake is it's a very brief one.
What's your head quake?
Everyone I know knows that I'm a big movie, classic film fan. So I'm very concerned about this merger between Paramount and Warner Brothers. I was hoping that Netflix would get that sale, but Warner Brothers, the Ellison family, just gave them an offer they couldn't. Warner Brothers an offer they couldn't really refuse, way above market value. And my concern is just that these studios, these two hallowed ground studios in Hollywood, don't have enough work as it is to keep those physical studios busy. So I think in order to get some of his money back, I think the Ellisons are going to be turning all that into a property, into real estate developments. And I think in a few years, they're going to be seeing a prospectus for apartments available in like Paramount City or
when you talk about the studios, what exactly are we talking about from
the
a real
sound
estate
stages?
perspective?
You can remember, you can.
How big are they?
They're enormous. There may be 200 acres of land full of these big sort of what do you call them? These buildings that have these round roofs, which were where they would shoot films and later shoot television. And there's not enough on-site film production for them to justify extremely valuable
So this is the
real
equivalent
estate.
of a steel mill or something, or a giant chemical plant.
Like
It's
a
the industry's
factory. It's a film
factory,
factory.
film
They're film
factory.
factories, but
And
they're,
how many? We're talking about how many? We're talking about Warner Brothers
Warner Brothers
lots,
and Paramount. You
studios,
remember
and
the
Paramount's
Paramount lot?
lots.
We saw the Paramount lot on, in Sunset Boulevard, going through the gates, and Cecil B. DeMille is shooting on one of the sound stages. Warner Brothers, I mean, people can picture them. There's a water tower with the WB um, emblem
That's
on it. That's sort of the symbol
famously
of the Warner.
famously the water tower. And
Yeah,
what about in the Apple TV production, the studio? They're
I
inside
think there is some television production, but I just don't think there's. I was in, when I watched the that series about the making of The Godfather, The Offer. They shot that all on the Paramount lot because that was a Paramount film, and it was very nice to see the Paramount lot being used for filming about a Paramount production itself, set in the early 70s. That was kind of fun, and I thought, good, we need as much production going on in that actual lot because I don't think they're using it that much. I once got a tour of the Chaplin studio, which was later bought by A&M Records,
the
and I think
Chaplin
it's
studio was that RKO?
no, it was Charlie Chaplin
Oh
had his
no,
own.
United Artists.
Well, it was before United. He built it before United Artists. It's not the
Oh,
United. Yeah, I don't know if United Artists ever had a studio.
oh,
It was just a group of like producers. No, it was Chaplin's own studio. It was quite small. He built it in like around 1918 or something, and now it's listed in the exterior. He designed it to look like a village, like an old English village. I think it's on the corner of La Brea and Sunset Boulevard. I'll get complaints that I got that wrong, but it was really lovely visiting it. And they have his original safe in his office. He had a very small soundstage studio, which A&M at that point was using to shoot music videos, but that's still there. But I don't know, that hasn't been turned into condominiums. But I just worry about Paramount and Warner Brothers. Anyway, enough of that. Most people aren't probably as concerned as
so
I
wait,
am.
one more thing, two more
Yeah,
things. So back to the Apple Studio production of the studio. They're in a Frank Lloyd Wright building. It's a studio building on the
Apple
lot.
TV.
In Frank Lloyd Wright famously built a executive building on one of the lots, and
No, I don't know where that is.
kind of
Which lot?
Asian inspired. It's really beautiful. They're
Oh,
in it
well,
in the show.
is that featured in in the studio?
The
The
TV show, The
studio.
Studio with Seth
Yes,
Rogen.
I was wondering who designed it. That's an actual Frank Lloyd Wright
It's an
building.
actual Frank Lloyd Wright building. It's beautiful. If you watch the show, the building itself is almost like its own character. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
But who does that belong to?
I don't know where they. Oh yes, there was an Apple, but Apple doesn't have a studio. I don't know where they shot that. But of course, a lot of those productions are, produced by, made by some independent company or even another studio, and then sold to Apple, or Apple takes it over. Apple doesn't have any studio of itself. I'd love to know where that was
It
actually shot.
belongs to one of the studios, and if it belongs to one of the soon to be acquired studios, what will happen to it?
Well, I would hope that would be listed. I mean, they're gonna want to keep a certain complexion of those original studios because that'd be a big selling point for the condominiums that you were living in what was Paramount Studio.
But you're imagining that they turn into condos. Maybe they become cooling centers for AI.
Oh my God, they could be or they could be Homeland Security could just use them to round up people and put in. I mean, it's horrible to think what they could become.
Oh wait,
All right,
Don't be so negative. Don't,
yeah,
Mr.
we
Miller.
can't end on this note. It's
Maybe
supposed to be
maybe it becomes like a gentle hydroponic farm that creates organic produce for people who live in food deserts.
Yes, that's probably what it's going to become. Or maybe the Muppets will just take them over, both of them. It becomes so hugely popular. That's what I'm hoping. All right. Well, I think that's a nice place to end it, on the Muppets taking over Paramount and Warner Brothers Studios. It's a nice thought. Well, until next time, this is JB Miller in London.
Jim Jalamas in Brooklyn.
See you guys soon.
See you guys. Bye.